There was a time when something as small as a sharpened piece of steel could land you in police custody, not because it was a sword or a battlefield relic, but because it was so cleverly engineered that governments feared what it allowed ordinary people to do. The knife at the center of this story didn't look dangerous. It wasn't a bayonet, a dagger, or some oversized combat blade. It was a simple folding knife, compact, discreet, and easy to pocket. Yet it became one of the most quietly restricted tools civilians were ever forbidden to own. To understand why, you have to go back to the early and mid-20th century, when the world was at war and soldiers depended on the smallest tools for their lives. Knives weren't just for cutting rope or opening rations. They were vital instruments for survival, escape, sabotage, and last resort protection. Among all these wartime tools, one design stood out. A folding variant inspired by the British Fairborn Sykes Commando dagger, an elite weapon carried by covert operatives of the ESO commandos who fought in the shadows. This folding version didn't look like the long, elegant dagger that inspired it. Instead, it disguised its lethality under the plain, harmless profile of but the moment the blade snapped open, the resemblance was unmistakable. A narrow, double-edged point, a locking spine strong enough to take serious force. Steel hardened to the same extremes used in military daggers. It wasn't built for whittling sticks or slicing apples. It was engineered for the silent, precise work of wartime operatives. Governments saw the danger immediately. When the war ended, thousands of former soldiers brought these knives home in their gear bags. Others slipped into the black market, traded quietly among civilians who admired their craftsmanship. But authorities didn't see tools, they saw disguised weapons. A civilian could fold it, slip it harmlessly into a coat, and walk through town unnoticed. A trained commando could turn it into a lethal extension of their hand in a fraction of a second. That combination, accessibility, concealability, and lethal efficiency, terrified lawmakers. By the late 1940s and early 50 segundos, multiple nations banned them outright. Britain outlawed the import, sale, and possession of fast-deploying double-edged folders. Many parts of Europe followed. In the United States, fear of concealed blades led to the Switchblade Act of 1958, lumping knives like this into the same category as gravity knives and flick knives. Entire designs disappeared from public life almost overnight. But the knife didn't vanish. It lived on underground, hidden in surplus shops, tucked into tool belts, or passed privately between collectors. Craftsmen admired it not as a weapon, but as an object of engineering brilliance. The blade geometry was perfectly balanced for piercing and slicing. The pivot operated with buttery smoothness even under mud and grit. The steel could flex without snapping and sharpen to a razor edge. Survivalists saw it as a rugged, no-nonsense tool. Farmers used similar designs to cut rope and graft plants. Hunters carried them for dressing game. To many people, this wasn't an outlawed military device. It was simply the best folding knife they had ever used. And here's the twist. Modern tactical folders, the Benchmades, Gerbers, Spydercos, and every high-end EDC knife on the market trace their lineage directly back to this forbidden design. The concept of a fast, reliable, pocket-sized blade built with military precision started with this hidden wartime folder. The idea that a knife should deploy quickly, lock securely, and withstand real pressure didn't come from outdoor hobbyists. Came from soldiers who needed their tools to work flawlessly in the worst conditions imaginable. Even today, the laws shaped by this fear still ripple across the world. In many countries, certain locking or spring-assisted knives remain restricted, not because of crime statistics or danger, but because of the legacy left behind by a single folding knife that blurred the line between civilian tool and covert weapon. Yet despite its controversial past, its influence is everywhere. Firefighters carry rescue knives with rapid open mechanisms born from the same design philosophy. Soldiers on modern battlefields rely on tactical folders that are spiritual descendants of the banned wartime blade. Even casual hikers who carry a sturdy EDC in their pocket are benefiting from innovations that originated in the world of espionage and close-quarters combat. When you clean your knife, sharpen the edge on a whetstone, or oil the pivot to keep it smooth, you're performing the same routine soldiers once used in muddy trenches and behind enemy lines. Every click of a locking mechanism, every smooth deployment, is a tiny echo of wartime engineering refined over generations. And that's what makes the history of this forbidden knife so powerful. It isn't just about a banned object. It's about human ingenuity, how necessity drives creation, how fear shapes law, and how a tool designed for war was eventually transformed into something ordinary people use every day. It's a reminder that sometimes the most impactful inventions aren't the big, loud machines of history, but the small, quiet ones you can carry in your pocket. So the next time you open a folding knife, take a moment to appreciate the hidden story behind it. Because somewhere in that simple hinge and sharpened edge is the legacy of a blade Gumrun tried to erase but couldn't. A design so effective, so versatile, so ahead of its time, that it shaped an entire industry long after it was banned. And if you enjoy uncovering forgotten relics and the untold stories behind them, stay with us. There are countless more tools, weapons, and inventions waiting to be rediscovered, each with an edge just as sharp as the story behind this one.